When I stop and start the intubation process, this patient's not going to be breathing. Nobody's going to be breathing for them, so we need to hyperoxygenate them, get as much oxygen in to start with. We use a specific position. We get their head into what we call sniff in the morning air position, or a sniffing position. And that involves us bringing their head, you can do it with yourself, you can bring your head forward and back. I've got a wee roll of fat, well, I've got a big roll of fat at the back of my neck, and I know I'm in the right position because that rolls down. Okay, so come forward and back. That aligns all the airway structures. If I just do a head tilt chin lift, everything's kind of out of alignment, but if I do a sniffing position like that, it aligns everything up into a straight line. That's what we aim for. Okay, so once I've got that, I use the laryngoscope to get what we call a view. All I want to do is look at this point and see what I can see. I'm aiming to see the glottic opening between the vocal cords. Okay, so there's two potential places where the tube could go. One's into the trachea, where we want it to go. Who's the other one?
The esophagus.
And the tube will always want to go into the esophagus. So it's a bigger, wider, smoother hole for it to go into. So we get them into a sniffing position, have a look, get a view. Once I've got a view, that's when I get the person who's assisting me to start cancelling things. So the first thing I would expect is the bougie. Okay, so the bougie is handed over. What I would expect with the bougie is, while I'm still maintaining a view, that the bougie is handed to me, I pass it down, and the tip, do you know what the tip bit's for? Yeah, I feel the rings of the cartilage in the trachea, so I run it up and down and I get that. So I know if it was in the esophagus, that would just slide up and down, wouldn't it? There'd be no resistance, but the cartilage gives that clicking sensation. Once I'm happy that that's in position, I would then get you to pass the tube. So I'm holding onto this, I would get you to pass the tube down over the top of it.
Yep.
Once the bougie appears at the top of the tube, you hold onto the bougie and I take control of the tube. When I pass the ET tube down, you can see these two black lines?
Yeah.
These are called Murphy's lines. I aim for the first line to disappear through the glottic opening and the second one just to be in view. If I can see that, I know it's in position. What's going to happen if I push it down too far? Where's it going to go? Down the right hand side, isn't it? It'll go down the right hand side. If I push it in and it's not quite far enough to go down the right, the tip here will sit right at that separation of the trachea, and that's where your vagus nerve lives. And if you stimulate the vagus nerve, it will drop the patient's heart rate. So if I've intubated the patient but the heart rate is now 40, I'm thinking that's not right. I'm going to have to take the tube out a little bit, re-inflate it, see if the heart rate comes up. Okay, so that's why these lines are really important for that. Once it's in place and I'm happy, I'll inflate the cuff, I'll have a listen with my stethoscope. I want to see chest rise and fall, but I want to hear air in all the lung fields and not in the stomach, and then you can tie it off with the ET tube, with the tube holder. Happy with that? Right. Okay, so to start off with, patients being hyperoxygenated for 30 seconds. So we can put them into the sniffing position. Laryngoscope on the left hand, in, advance the blade, down. I can see what I'm looking for, so bougie coming in, bougie's in, advance the bougie, I can feel the tracheal rings. Okay, I've got the tube, got the bougie, advance it, first line away, second line just in view, pull out the bougie. Okay, inflate the cuff away, cuff inflated. Okay, so I'm just going to check first of all that this, before I seal everything off, I'm just going to check that this is in place. So I put my stethoscope on, clearly I put my stethoscope in my ears and not just around my neck. I can see the chest rise and fall. I listen apex, apex, mid-axilla, mid-axilla, base, base, silent stomach. So I'm happy that that is in position. Okay, you happy to put the tube holder on for me? It's fine, just make sure that that's out. Good. So just make sure that's all the way in the patient's mouth.
Yeah, the bite box just slightly out.
So the right block in. because we've moved, there's been a potential for displacement. I'm going to check again. Apex, apex, mid-axilla, mid-axilla, base, base, silent stomach. And that's patient can just be ventilated now. Happy?
Yep.
Cool.
So would you be saying, so we would be opening that but checking, because we're checking their expiry dates
Yep.
and everything, so we're doing all that before we hand it to you.
That's fine. Happy?